sometimes from the point of ignorance. Aviation is the most regulated industry in the world. And there are standards. Anybody that does not meet the standard is not allowed to operate, especially in Nigeria. We're doing a lot to ensure that standards are maintained. And as I said, you have so many million flights without any incident. It's only when one happens that people get to know that we are working behind the scene to ensure that nothing happens. And that's what the target for AIB or AIPB is zero accidents, really. And that is why we are focusing now more on the prevention.
Well, this prevention really counts here. I think we really haven't answered the question Chamberlain asked earlier on. If you actually go out of your way, we know that we have the regulatory body, which also we'll be talking with, the NCA, but do you go out of your way to go into some of these aircrafts or look into their books and their flight plans now that you have the prevention added to your task?
Yeah, I said part of the strategy of this accident prevention is the visitation that I said. And we look at all those things when we go, from the logs, whether aircraft logs, the tower logs when we go to control towers.
By the way, do they do that? Do they go through the logs daily? How often do they go through the logs?
Who now? Let me ask.
Okay, for instance, now that you can go through the logs, AIB, how often do you do that?
Anytime we're on visitation, we check the logs. It's not that because we don't work for the airline, so we will not be going to the airline every day to do it. The airline has the responsibility of continuous airworthiness of their aircraft. So that part has been delegated to them. That is not to say that the regulatory agency is not checking to ensure, because every engineer knows that he needs to check the log, because that is the log, that is the communication between the pilots or the crew and the engineers, is that logbook.
Okay. Do they file this log with you? Do they file a copy of the log, maybe monthly or weekly or annually? Do they file it with you?
No, they are not required to file with us.
Shouldn't that be? Because it also helps in your monitoring process.
Well, it's not a requirement. But when we go on inspection, and you don't have to give any warning that you are going to go for monitoring. So you are able to pick if something is amiss.
Because now that you're taking a new acronym, which is prevention, we assume that you take on more responsibility, and so you modify your operations in terms of how you work closely with these airlines to prevent any accidents.
Actually, we work closely with all the stakeholders. That includes the airlines. But the people with the prime responsibility is the regulatory agency. But we work closely, and we monitor the monitor, because they are supposed to monitor, and we also monitor.
Who is the monitor in this case?
The regulatory agency, the Civil Aviation Authority. But we also monitor to ensure that they are properly monitored. In addition to monitoring the operators, service providers.
Does AIPB now have the capacity? Because if you take in more responsibility, are you supposed to increase your workforce, or you just do it with technology?
Well, we employ both. The highly qualified and experienced manpower with sufficient numbers required by International Civil Aviation Organization, and the equipment also.
Okay. But some of these recommendations that AIB, before it became AIPB, has published over time, how many of them do airlines take and implement? Because, I mean, some time ago we saw controversy. Some of them were contravening or picking holes in some of your publications on findings. Do they take in these findings and implement, or do you ensure that they implement all these recommendations you put in place for safety?
All the recommendations we have made have been implemented.
By all the airlines, even for all the crashes so far?
So far, so good, yes. I'll give you some examples. We have made recommendations on training, and they've been accepted because we noticed some accidents that had weather as a major factor. That is wind shear, to be precise. We made recommendation, it's been accepted. In addition to the training itself, we made a recommendation on having a requirement for all Nigerian registered aircraft flying to have on board predictive wind shear alerting system, and it's been implemented. At the airports now, we have ground-based low-level wind shear alerting system. We have also recommended pilot briefing rooms, which have been implemented.
All the airlines, or is it airports that have it?
No, the airports, you know, the pilots or their dispatches representatives will go and take briefing before dispatching a flight. We also made recommendation on the total radar coverage, which I'm happy that government has also implemented that. So almost all the things that we have recommended for the purpose of improving air safety have been implemented.
What can you do in a situation where, I mean, this doesn't even have to do with any technicality, when a pilot who just overworks himself happened to be involved in a crash? Because we saw one scenario where it happened in an Ethiopian airline. It was just a question of, excuse me, the pilot not getting adequate rest. And then upon getting to the airline, fatigue setting, and the rest was history. What can you do in that circumstance here?
Well, it's a recommendation, monitoring, and also appealing, because safety business is everybody's business. Both all stakeholders' hands should be on deck. The regulatory authority will monitor. We will also monitor. The operators will also monitor the airlines to ensure when they are crewing flights that the provisions for work and rest is respected. It's actually to prevent a fatigued crew from operating, because we know what happens when somebody is fatigued. He can never perform at the same level as somebody who is normal. So as I said, all hands should be on deck, and safety business is everybody's business.
All right, then Captain Mukhtar Omar is the Commissioner for AIPB, that's Accident Investigation Prevention Bureau.
Bureau, correct.
All right, then thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much.